Good afternoon to all. Here we are going to present the work 10 Years of the Quota Policy at Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul, a study of affirmative action from the perspective of access, permanence, and empowerment of Black graduated students, by Eliane Almeida de Souza, who is PhD in Environmental Education and PhD in Education from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. Hello, I come to you at this brilliant event in Canada in October 2023 through our president of ABET, who is currently representing me along with my friend Gabriela. I am here today at the event in which our president represents us to present excerpts from the results of a doctoral thesis authored by a peripheral Black woman who researched the 10 years of affirmative action policy at Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. The affirmative action policy was approved by University Council in 2008, which, meeting the demands of the Black movement and other Brazilian social segments, implemented the quota system at the university. The research aimed to evaluate the academic trajectory of Black quota students, that is, Black students benefited by race-based policy, based on the categories of insertion, adaptation, and empowerment. The interviews covered undergrad students from humanities, biology, and exact sciences, with all former students coming from the fields of social sciences, nursing, history, and accounting. Affirmative action's arrival at Federal University, despite not being the pioneer of this area, the university started to institute the affirmative action policy after 2008, growing to become another university of reference to be mirrored by other higher education institutions that haven't yet implemented their quota policies. Below is a summary of the federal institutions in the state of Rio Grande do Sul that have social and racial quota policies, along with the identification of the type of policy adopted. The quota law, also known as Law 2007-11 of 2012, was sanctioned during the government of former President Dilma Rousseff and originally have a validity from 10 years. The chapters of the thesis. The first chapter deals with the origins of affirmative action policies in Brazil and around the world, highlighting, in the Brazilian case, the Black movement's role and the implementation of racial quotas at universities. The second chapter portrays the context of the arrival of Black quota students at Federal University, whose clashes took place before, during, and following the approval of this policy in university life. Based on its institutional norms and the process of the racial quotas arrival at these institutions. The third chapter presents the theoretical methodological contribution made in relation to the challenges for university democratization in contemporary times, the crisis from the Santos viewpoint, and the Freirean perspective in addition to the adaptation and critical inception of students who joined by racial quotas. The fourth chapter presents the analysis of the student's origin and profile and tells about the trajectory of Black quota students at Federal University, given the categories of access, empowerment, and success, whose formative experiences and political participation in these institutions are permitted by the category of ethnic racial belonging. The last chapter addresses the critical evaluation of the racial quota policy at Federal University from the perspective of former quota students now alumni, whose speeches based the challenges and future projections. They evaluate the education faculty postgraduate called a policy from the perspective of the university's reinvention according to the categories of access, permanence, and empowerment, where the university has been pulsing with the energy of diversity. Finally, the conclusion summarizes the problem this is addressed within. The research subjects. The pedagogical experiences were lived by 6 former students, which means Black quota graduated students, because this acronym accounts from the complexities of gender, ethnicity, and language that Black individuals, the interviewees, experienced, as well as the relationship between whites and Blacks in the academy, the dialogues brought to light, and the division of society when the topic is affirmative action policies. In particular, racial quotas that are still so questioned by society in general on the results of affirmative action. All these participants are from the first generations of Black quota students to graduate from Federal University, having joined from 2008 and 2011, and incidentally, all graduated in the second semester between 2012 and 2015. Theoretical framework. The theoretical framework included Freire, Santos, Munanga, Zitkowski, Davis, Olivan, and others, with affirmative legislation strengthening dialogues with human rights. Among the powerful responses are the difficulties in expressing their Blackness, the religious and sexual prejudice, and the harassment experienced. In light of this, everyone made suggestions for students and teachers regarding the respect for racial rights that are still severely violated, as well as the need to change the ways of receiving, assisting, and accompanying students based on specific activities on the affirmative action law and the fight against prejudice. Here's a graphic. Racism felt on skin. An example of this occurred in 80s when the company Benetton broadcasted a commercial all over the world featuring the image of 2 children. Without going into too much detail, it's observed that the white child appears to be happy, full of life, and that the curls of her hair can be, if desired, compared to an angelic being. Next to her is the Black child, with a serious facial expression, a look of insecurity, and her hair arranged from the photo in such a way that can be seen as 2 little horns. Those responsible for the release were contacted to give an interview on the matter, and the spokesperson for this American store in 2015, David Otis, commented when asked about the images. The inappropriate and widely distributed image of one of our campaign's hangers with a non-correspondent shirt has not been authorized and will not be tolerated. We sincerely regret this occurrence as a misunderstanding and state that a similar situation will not occur again. According to the company, the shirts and their hangers are sold separately, and it is up to each store to put together the combination if wants. Conclusion. These Black women and Black men transform their adversities into overcoming, taking flight like Fernão Capelo's character, and evaluating the quotas as a policy that has been working, even if in need of adjustment, which should increasingly include all social segments at the university. They currently identify themselves as empowered subjects in the fight for collective social transformation in Brazil.